Everyone agrees we're in the middle of a housing shortage in America. Many estimates even place the shortage at around 5 million units. So how did we get here? Well, a lot of it traces back to the 2008 financial crisis. This is when home building collapsed, and for years after, builders played it safe, putting up far fewer homes than the growing population needed. At the same time, many cities doubled down on restrictive zoning, making it nearly impossible to build new apartments or affordable starter homes in the areas people most wanted to live. Add in rising construction costs, a shortage of skilled labor, and community pushback against density, and new supply quickly stagnated. Meanwhile, demand kept climbing as millennials hit home buying age and immigration added more households. This was all happening while average wage increases in the US failed to keep pace with average home prices, and corporations buying up homes only exacerbated the problem. The impact of this shortage is also very tangible. It's meant an increase in homelessness, with base level rents becoming unattainable for swaths of low-income individuals. Currently, homelessness levels in the US are the highest they've ever been. Additionally, millions of households are paying more than the recommended 30% of their income on housing, with an increased number paying 50% or more. The natural effect of this means there's less money available for essentials like food, childcare, healthcare, and savings, which continues to propagate greater wealth disparity. Not to mention the social impact, with an increased percentage of young adults who are delaying moving out of their parents' house, and married couples still postponing having children. Many theories have been posited to alleviate the housing shortage problem in America. From freeing up federal lands to tax incentives for large builders, there are a plethora of ideas in this conversation. And I'm not claiming that some combination of these ideas wouldn't be useful, but I think people often forget the core reason why we're calling this a housing shortage, which is to say that there's simply not enough supply to meet the current demand for housing here. This is the reason why housing and rental prices are so unaffordable. It's an economic equation. So the natural question is, well, how do we increase supply? Answer: create more units however you can. This may seem obvious, but currently your average city only allows for detached single-family housing development in 70 to 80% of residential land. This model for housing development is extremely inefficient and severely limits the amount of units that can be built in a given area of land. It means that duplexes, triplexes, and other forms of denser middle housing are strictly prohibited. Not to mention that other forms of easily buildable housing, like backyard cottages and ADUs, are illegal in most US cities. In fact, if only 5% of American homeowners added an ADU or single unit cottage to bring in some extra income, it would single-handedly end the housing shortage. Our land use is also abysmal. Many cities have up to 45% of their total developed land devoted to automobile infrastructure, like parking lots and highways. This is precious land that can be utilized for building more housing. Allowing for and incentivizing greater diversity in our real estate development pattern will inevitably allow for more housing units to be built. And we know this works, because in places like New Rochelle, New York, measures to counteract price increases through increased housing supply have proven successful on a small scale. Even in places like California, ADUs now represent 1 in every 5 new units built to help counteract rising rental prices in the state. I'm not saying ADUs or backyard cottages alone are going to solve the problem. What I am saying is that it's time we get creative in order to meet the demand for housing that's been pent up for years. However, simply removing these restrictions tomorrow wouldn't save the country from the housing crisis. Our financialization of the housing market has made housing a commodity first and a place of shelter second. As a result, when housing prices tend to fall, builders get scared that their ROI will decline, and the situation is only worsened. And federal support continues to prop up a failing model. Federal government credit, tax deductions for interest payments, property tax deductions, and infrastructure subsidies prop up single-family housing as the only form of real estate available. These initiatives incentivize consumers to continue to buy single-family housing, which causes developers to only build single-family housing, which causes banks to only lend for single-family housing. It's circular reasoning, all without significantly increasing supply. In fact, it really only makes home prices easier to increase, not easier to buy. Single-family housing development is a product that is too valuable for Wall Street to give up on, no matter how inefficient it is. But is a home first a product or a home? Local governments can combat this in a few ways. Number one is to relax zoning regulations. This will allow for a more efficient bottom-up effort for increasing the housing supply that will also benefit local homeowners through rental income. Number two, make building extremely easy. This essentially just means streamlining the process for building new properties. In most cities, you have to go through an extensive process of approvals and bureaucracy to build any sort of formal housing. Especially for low-scale individual units, this process should be absolutely seamless. Number three, provide financial incentive for increased units. This is the carrot that's needed to add more supply. One of the biggest drivers of housing costs is the rapid increase in construction costs. If cities are serious about increasing supply, they can invoke measures like tax exemptions, waive development fees, and self-sustaining housing finance agencies to help promote more grassroots initiatives for building. Bottom line, your local government needs to make a proactive effort to make housing affordability a priority, and they can. This should go without saying, but these solutions aim to fix the housing problem as it exists today. Long term, the best thing to do is to adjust our real estate development pattern to support fiscally sustainable cities that are conducive to human flourishing. This means higher density neighborhoods with a mix of housing types, walkable streets, and human-scale urban design that make communities livable without sprawling endlessly. This allows for supply to meet demand naturally, while also just being a better place to live. We should all be striving to see greater housing accessibility. You can play a part in this by advocating for less zoning regulations in your local communities and encouraging neighbors to have a more inclusive view of their community that sees others as a value add rather than a detractor. But if that all seems too daunting, the easiest step you can take is to subscribe to this channel to help inform people to create sustainable cities and towns across America.